Hello there, this is Ben Yost with Castle & Cook Mortgage, and I hope you're having a great day. Hey, I just wanted to give you some really helpful shopping hints. In other words, I'm going to give you some shopping tips on how things really work. First of all, let's talk about closing costs. Closing costs are pretty much the same nowadays with all the lenders. In other words, and we're going to talk about the state of Colorado, primarily in the Denver metro area. Basically, if you were to look at everybody's fees and line them up across the board, you'd be surprised that we're all within $100 to $200 within each other. We all have basically the same fees now. The reason for that is we all got licensed about a year and a half ago. So all the crazy companies that had the crazy fees pretty much went out of business. And then those that are left, those loan officers that are left that are licensed, we don't want to go in front of the real estate commission and tell them about our wacky warehouse fee or broker fee. So that might surprise you, but that's the one really good thing that came out of. That's one of the really good things that came out of the fact that we're all licensed now in the state of Colorado. The other thing is that when you hear, now you know that when you hear of companies advertising, well, no closing costs or no origination or we have no fees in them, realistically, what it is that they're really playing a game of with the rates. So in other words, how that really works, and we're going to take the example of an origination fee. How that really works is, let's say that if you're a bank, would you rather make 5% on your money or 5.25%? Well, of course, if you're a bank, you'd rather make 5.25% on your money. Well, if the market's at 5%, how do you get a lender like myself or a company to sell 5.25%? Well, very simple. You pay us more money. And because we get paid more money from the bank, because you're going at 5.25% instead of 5%, we're able to do the no origination fee. If you go to 5.5%, now we can pay some more fees. If you go to 5.75%, we can pay even more fees. If we went to 6%, we'd probably pay all your fees in that example. So that's how you do a quote-unquote no-cost loan. The banks that zero in on that, and/or lenders or brokers that zero in on the look at on less fees, generally they had a little bit higher rates to begin with, and that's their way of getting you to look more at the fees, that the total picture. So kind of keep that in mind. Basically, and then let's break down again the three different channels you have for getting a loan. One is the banks, 2 is correspondent lenders, and 3 is brokers. I'm a correspondent lender, and what that means is that we take the loans, we close them in our name, we fund them ourselves. Then what we do is we do sell them, but we sell them to the there's like 5 or 6 banks left, so you can guess which ones they are. But we go to those banks and we'll sell them, say, like $40 million or $50 million worth of conventional or FHA or VA loans at once. We'll say, okay, guys, who's going to give us the best deal on this package of loans? And so they give us a really good price on it because they didn't have the overhead of us, the loan officers. They get what they really want is the loans. And any bank will tell you they'd rather have 1,000 loans than 1,000 loan officers. So we get a really good discount. Brokers do the same thing. The only difference is that they only can sell one loan to them at a time. And so they do get a discount, but it's not going to be the same discount as if they were given, $30, $40, $50 million worth of loans at once. And then banks basically they do retail mainly because they're already doing wholesale. But you got to remember, a bank has to pay for the loan officer's overhead. They have to pay for their office, their chairs, their phones, their laptops. You have an FDIC component to it, which adds a whole nother layer of security they have to pay for. We don't have to because we're not banks. And so what you'll usually find is that and I can't say this in all circumstances, but what you find is that the correspondent lenders will have the best pricing. The brokers will be about an eighth better. So we'll be like a quarter point better than the banks. The brokers will be an eighth point better than the banks. And then the banks are generally, like I say, a quarter point more than anyone else. And again, they get a lot of people who did car loans with them and everything. So they just get a lot of walk-in traffic because, there's a trust factor with a lot of people with the banks also. Basically, that's some insider tips on how it works. What I would do is when I shop, I would always ask, and what I do anyhow is I like to give both perspectives anyhow. Here's a good faith with an origination, here's one without, and that way I can kind of tailor to what you're doing. a lot of it also has to do to center around how long you're going to be in there. If you're going to want to refi your home and you might move in the next 5, 6, 7 years, you probably are going to be looking on a refinance level of doing it without an origination because it'll be less equity that you have. So if you can save $150, spend a couple $1,000s in closing costs, which will break even after 2 years, and then you sold after 5 years, you're way ahead. But if you went and added, say, did $5,000 worth of closing costs in the same scenario, you would almost be a break even. So you get into that. That's kind of how you want to look at it. So I would look at it both ways. On purchases, you almost always do originations because you want the lowest rate you can because you know you're not going to reprice selling for a long time after that. Hey, I hope these are helpful tips. I hope this helped for you. Don't be afraid to opt in over here and basically be notified when the rates are the very best. And why don't you just call me? I'm not going to make you go through 4 or 5 pages of a loan app or whatever. You know, I'm local. I'm right here in the Denver metro area. And I'll just call you and we'll go through it. And if it makes sense for you, it does. If not, then no harm done. My number is 303-587-4297. And again, I hope you're having a great day.